Manila's hottest monster, RX93.1. Good afternoon and welcome to the show that made Philippine FM Radio Talk, KBP's best podcast program, heard on Thursdays only here on Manila's hottest monster, RX93.1. I'm your host, Ria Rams. And when we think about nature, often we imagine far off mountains or untouched beaches, right? But nature is also here in our cities, in the trees that line our streets, the birds that wake us up in the morning, and the tiny wild spaces that quietly keep our urban world alive. Now, urban biodiversity is quiet, but it's the living heartbeat of our cities. And it's disappearing faster than we realize. As concrete sprawls and green spaces shrink, we are losing more than just scenery. We're losing vital ecosystems that protect our health, support our food systems, and shape the very air we breathe. Today, we are joined by someone who's been at the forefront of studying and protecting these urban ecosystems, environmental scientist and conservationist Job Ochoa. We are going to be talking about the hidden life of cities and why every patch of green matters, and how we can make space for nature in even the most concrete heavy landscapes. Now, this episode is really about reimagining what a livable city looks like and why our future depends on where the wild things are, or rather, the wild things that live among us. So, heard on Thursdays, let's welcome to the show, Job Ochoa.
Hello.
Hey, Job. Welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself to our listeners and also everything you do.
Hello, I'm Job Ochoa. I am a scientist. I am a conservationist, but right now I am a full-time digital marketer. I used to work for for an environmental nonprofit, and I also used to be a science teacher for grades 5 and 6 students.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my background.
Yeah. So, as a grade school science teacher, I assume you're used to making it easy for people to understand, complex science things.
I would hope so.
Well, let's ask your students. But anyway, welcome to the show. Again, a lot of people imagine environmental work as, trekking through like forests or diving in coral reefs. And I think you've done this in your previous job, right? But your focus also includes cities.
Yes.
Which I think is overlooked. Like when you think of a city, you're like, yeah, concrete jungle where dreams are made. It's not really you don't think of especially here in the Philippines, when you think of the city, you don't really think of
wildlife.
Especially
in Metro Manila, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because we don't really have many spaces here.
Yeah.
So,
or that's what you think.
Oh, okay. Are we gonna challenge that now? Well, can you tell us a little bit about your journey into this space? Like, was there a moment where you realized that urban nature mattered just as much?
Well, I did, as you mentioned, work on the ocean, a lot of coral reef research, and a lot of mangrove research. So the typical biodiversity or the typical ecosystems that people think of. But I started really getting interested in urban biodiversity when I was in college. So I used to be an environmental science major in Ateneo de Manila University, and they would host nature walks with bird watching. And there I didn't before that I didn't realize how diverse it was in Ateneo, and that's just like one small pocket in Metro Manila. And I woke after that, let's say 50-minute walk, we saw like 25 species of birds.
What?
And I was like, I just know Maya. And then after that, I was woken up with how biodiverse it is in Metro Manila, just in one campus, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like when you don't know, right? Like, you said, I only know Maya. And I feel like that's a majority of us.
Yeah.
We don't really get to notice because we don't know. Right? And I feel like that's something that's difficult to learn din kasi, like bird species, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, now growing up, Can you tell us about your relationship with nature? Like, what was it like? Were you always the kid who was curious about plants and animals, even here in the middle of the city?
Definitely. Even when I was a baby, my mom would tell me the only way to calm me down as a baby was to put on the aquarium channel. And whenever you would go to Chinese restaurants, because they're aquariums, right? The only way to get me to eat was to put me in front of the aquariums. So even before I could remember, that's how I was wired already. And then it just got stronger as time progressed. Like when I was a kid, I always had so many pets. I would make my cousin like do a lot of stuff with me in nature to try, just like to try and get her to like it also,
Uh-huh.
right?
So, for those of you who don't know, Job is my cousin, and I am the cousin he's referring to. And the things that he made me do that he's referring to include, but are not limited to, touching the poo of snail.
Yeah, which is actually a very important part of the ecosystem. It brings nutrients back into the soil.
But not to me.
Just to
Uh,
make you less squeamish about
okay,
nature, right?
fair. Aside from that, he also made me eat dog food.
Well,
What what's
that's not about nature anymore.
But yeah, I could definitely vouch that ever since you were much younger, he's always been the nature freak.
Yeah, I will admit I am a nature freak.
Yeah. And it's really fun. Somebody actually said, I always enjoy being with Job. I learn a lot.
Yeah.
Which is very accurate because he's the type of person who literally, if you're walking with him, he'll be like, oh, that's a. So, monsters, you can count on us learning a lot today. Now, what would you say is a hidden gem spot in an urban area where you've seen surprising biodiversity? It doesn't have to be here in Manila.
Honestly, and it doesn't have to be in Manila.
It doesn't have to be here in Manila or in the Philippines.
Well, I think I'd still wanna focus on what is here in Manila
Right.
as a hidden gem, right? For especially for urban biodiversity. It's really anywhere there are trees, anywhere there is a waterway, a creek, or anything that has running water, that
Mhm.
is already a magnet for biodiversity, even if it's polluted. That's what's surprising, right?
Mm.
Um, yeah, and even if there are parks, even the smallest parks will host so much biodiversity. There's so many different kinds of birds, insects, other kinds of animals, plants you won't see anywhere else in the
Right.
world that can be found in Metro Manila. So it's you just really have to look, you have to notice,
Yeah.
and stop and see what's there.
Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
get deeper into that because a lot of times I feel when people think of the biodiversity and those creeks, mga kanal,
Mm-hmm.
diba? People I think would see it as dangerous,
Yeah.
dirty, like a source of illnesses.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing you would say that's not entirely true.
I would say it's true, but also it can host biodiversity. It can host wildlife.
I see. Okay. Now, let's warm things up with a quick one. What would be the most unexpected or fascinating wildlife that you've spotted in a city?
I think for me would be also when I first went on a bird walk in Ateneo.
Mhm.
That was when I first saw a peregrine falcon in Quezon City. So a peregrine falcon is like the fastest animal on earth. It
What?
can because it goes really really high to catch its prey, so it usually eats other birds, and it would parachute or torpedo down onto its prey, and no other land animal moves faster than that particular way that they hunt. And like I would only see it on Discovery Channel or Animal Planet, but it was in Ateneo, like right where I was every day, and I didn't even realize it. And that kind of woke me up with the amount of wildlife and life that there is in the city. Like that only scratched the surface. After that was I think 8 years ago, and now like it's expanded so much more after that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is a species of bird that is really found here in the
Yes.
Philippines.
Yes.
Peregrine falcon.
Yeah, they're migratory, so you can only see them a few certain months during the winter months because they usually go down here because it doesn't snow. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, for those who are hearing the term for the first time, how would you explain urban biodiversity and why it's essential for us? Like, why do
Mhm.
we need to know about it? Why is it essential to our health, our food systems, and even, I would say, like, our mental well being?
Yeah, it's definitely important. But I think we have to break it down into what biodiversity means first. So biodiversity, it's two words: bio meaning life, diversity means variety. So it means biodiversity means the number of species or the number of life forms in a certain ecosystem. So you would say a place is biodiverse if there are so many different kinds of plants, animals, fungi, or whatever life there is
Mm-hmm.
in a certain place, right? And you if I say there's high biodiversity in an area, people would think, oh, in a coral reef, in a forest, right?
Right.
So when we say urban biodiversity, urban means city, right? Or somewhere
Right.
that's very developed. So urban biodiversity is the number of species or the number of life forms of specific life forms there are in an urban space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's very important for many different reasons, like clean air, pollution regulation, temperature regulation, which is something like I'm sure all of us can have experienced the
Mm-hmm.
problems of, right? Even with mental health, there have been studies that were made that if you live beside a river or a big body of water that's clean, it actually really improves your mental health. If you have a window in front of a tree versus a window in front of
A building.
a building, um, it also really improves your mental health. There are studies done on that also. So people don't even realize what nature does for you, because you don't really think about it. But you're actually so much more well off mentally if you're surrounded by nature in a city, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have so many thoughts, but I want to go back real quick to what you said about biodiversity.
Yeah.
My question is, when you say urban biodiversity, does that mean, like, for example, in Metro Manila, it's the
Mm-hmm.
whole of Metro Manila? You're looking at it, you're looking at the biodiversity there, or are you also looking at it in these smaller patches of nature?
Generally more broad, like the entirety of Metro Manila, but you can make it more specific, like the biodiversity in this park in Makati,
I
say, right?
see.
But when I talk about urban biodiversity, it's mostly in general terms, how many species, how much life there is
Hmm.
within our cities, right?
Right. Okay. And then you mentioned just like us being around nature.
Yeah.
Now, I have so many thoughts on that, because for me, for somebody like for us people who aren't very familiar with these hidden gems, or patches of nature in the city,
Mm-hmm.
we would say there isn't much.
Yeah.
So it's hard for us to be surrounded by nature as
Mm.
much as we like. Or maybe is it because the nature that we have in mind would be parks, like the parks that we
Mm-hmm.
see abroad, or you know how when you go to another country, or even in the provinces, you cross the street, or you walk in the streets, and it's like full of nature.
Yeah.
But here in Manila, you'll see maybe like a tiny plant growing
Yeah.
dun sa poste. So is that you think that's something that we just don't see because we don't notice it enough, or is it really something that needs some work here in Metro Manila?
Definitely a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there is a very huge lack of green spaces in Metro Manila, and but the thing is, I guess it's important to preface or to let people know just how biodiverse the Philippines is, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
our country is one of the most biodiverse countries in the entire world. We have
Wow.
one of the most number of species of plant animal life. We have one of the highest endemism, meaning there are so many species of these living things that can't be found anywhere else on Earth except the Philippines.
Wow.
So people don't really realize that, but we're so rich. Like we're really so rich when it comes to nature. That's why even in spaces like Metro Manila, when it might maybe so urbanized, we are lacking a bit of green spaces because of that high biodiversity in our country. Automatically there will already be so much biodiversity present, of course lessened than if I say I go to a healthy forest, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it will still be quite high in a place like Metro Manila, and it can be cultivated to be healthy again. Like there's hope.
There's
Right?
hope
Yeah.
is all we want to hear.
Yes.
Well, monsters, you are listening to Heard on Thursdays. I'm your host, Ria Rams, and today we're talking about the hidden life of cities with environmental scientist and conservationist Job Ochoa. We'll be back in just a little bit, only here on Manila's hottest Monster RX 93.1.
Monster presents Heard on Thursdays, the iconic radio talk show that made Philippine FM radio talk. Winner of multiple KBP Golden Dove Awards. HOT. Heard on Thursdays. Your host, Rhea Rams.
I'm your host, Rhea Rams, and today we are with environmental scientist and conservationist Job Ochoa to talk about the hidden life of cities, why every patch of green matters, and how we can make space for nature, even in the most concrete-heavy landscapes. Now, when we talk about the loss of biodiversity, the things that we imagine are deforestation, the melting ice caps, those types of things, right? These big, far away, like the things that we feel or they're far away from us, so we don't,
it's more out of sight, out of mind, right?
It's like we don't really think it affects us firsthand. But I'm sure you disagree with that, which we can get to later on. But I know that what you're also looking at is what's happening in our cities now. So what does biodiversity loss look like here at home? Like, what exactly is it that we are losing, even in places that people don't really think of as wild?
So I want to introduce the term also called shifting baselines. So this is the shift of what we're used to, or what the previous generation is used to, and what we're used to.
Okay.
So let's say when it was my dad's time, he was used to this number of bird species, and then slowly and slowly all of those species start disappearing. And I'm born into the reality when there are less birds.
Right.
So that baseline of what we're used to has shifted into something worse, but we're so used to it that we think it's normal.
Okay.
Right? So when I was a kid, or when we were kids rather, we would always see dragonflies at night. I remember my dad would call me to the garden and say there were what do you call this, fireflies, and there were frogs in my garden. There were salagubang or beetles everywhere.
Oh yeah.
And now we don't see any of that anymore. And that's within our lifetime, right? But we're so used to it. So the baseline of that biodiversity loss, of all of that loss, kind of becomes normal. We get used to it. But I want to battle that kind of thinking that we should get used to it, right? We have to remember back when we were younger, or at least back when our parents' generations were younger. Ask them what they used to see, and it will open your eyes to just how much we've been losing, even in the city. How much life was present, like I mentioned, like fireflies in the middle of the city, to now that you don't really see that anymore. In places like UP maybe, but in my house or in more urbanized places, you don't really see dragonflies or fireflies or frogs or these kinds of animals anymore, right?
Yeah. And what I find a little bit curious, right, is of course what exactly do these things bring to us? Because for me, what I'm guessing is a lot of people are like, great, because they're kind of pesty, right? They're like pests. Some people are very squeamish around insects and other types of nature. So when we lose even small pockets of nature in these urban spaces, a vacant lot like that had trees, or like what you mentioned, the fireflies that we used to see in the garden, the dragonflies, those types of things, what are the ripple effects? How does that loss eventually show up in our daily lives, and maybe like in the ways that we don't really connect to nature?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with something everyone complains about, which is heat.
Okay.
Right? If you it's hotter now, right? Every year it gets hotter and hotter. And when we talk about insects play such a huge role when it comes to pollination, making sure that plants can grow, they aerate the soil. There's so many things that they do in order to enable plants to thrive. And when we lose these animals, even if they are icky or people don't really like insects, they're so important to plants as well. And plants are what helps regulate the temperatures here. They're the ones that help clean our air here, right? And they're the ones that help reduce pollution. They help us breathe better. So everything is connected, especially when I talk about ecosystems, right? Literally, the loss of one thing will also affect, or will also make you lose another thing. even if it's something that's as inconsequential or quote unquote inconsequential as an ant. If you lose an entire ant colony, there's so much that can already happen that will be adverse to us, right?
Mhm.
So everything plays a role, especially if it is an animal that's naturally found there,
Mhm.
right? So insects, no matter what species, even if it's a cockroach, I know everyone hates cockroaches,
Yeah.
but they actually help decompose. They help decomposers in processing nutrients to bring it back into the soil. So there are these things that they might not be so aesthetically pleasing, or they
Right.
might not be so pretty, but they
Mm.
all still play a role. So yeah, the loss of dragonflies, that's one very important thing, because dragonflies, they're actually predators and they eat mosquitoes. So if you lose the dragonflies, what happens to the population of mosquitoes? If you lose the predator, right, the prey will
Right.
thrive. So if there are less dragonflies, there are more mosquitoes. More mosquitoes means more dengue, right? So that's an immediate effect for
Yeah.
us already. So just look at so we're losing dragonflies because we're losing clean waterways. Dragonflies need clean waterways for us, for them to breed. So
I
if
see.
there are no clean waterways, there are less dragonflies, there are more mosquitoes, there are more dengue cases, right? So that's just one connection. That's
Right.
just one animal, actually. So you can go through each animal that we're losing and see how it's affecting us directly. We don't really see those connections, but they're there.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I guess in some ways, if you notice less of something, it can also be telling of another thing. Basically, it's like a
Right.
snowball effect. Like you said,
Yeah.
we don't see dragonflies anymore. It means we are losing our clean waterways.
Yes. Exactly. That's a very good indicator. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. This is a bit of a tangent, but I'm just curious because you said like dragonflies help reduce mosquitoes.
Yes.
Do mosquitoes have any benefit?
Yes. So mosquitoes are, so they're male and female mosquitoes, right?
Uh-huh.
Male mosquitoes are pollinators. They don't drink blood. So they help plants reproduce. Female mosquitoes need blood because they need those nutrients from the blood to turn it into eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's actually the female mosquitoes that carry dengue. But as a species, mosquitoes are pollinators. Yeah.
Do mosquitoes mate?
Yes, they
Okay.
do.
No, because but there are species
Yes,
like
there are
that
some
they
animals that don't.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was like, why don't we just get rid of the female mosquitoes? But you still need
Yes, you need both.
you need both. Because
Yes.
then
Where
mawawala
would
yung
the eggs
okay.
go?
Ano ba yan?
Come from pala,
You're
yeah.
right, you're right. Wow. Okay, well, let's go back to our topic. I love the idea of unsung heroes in our
Mm-hmm.
ecosystems. Like the dragonfly example, I guess, would be one of them,
Mm-hmm.
the ones that we can use. Whether it's a certain type of insects that controls the preys, the
The
pests,
population of pests,
could
yeah.
be a bird also, or it could be a patch of mangroves that keep floodwaters at bay, which
Yeah.
is so
So important.
important right now. Can you share a few examples from our city that
Mm-hmm.
uh of these types of unsung heroes aside from the dragonflies? The species or green spaces that quietly actually do so much for us but rarely get the spotlight.
So one thing that people are often scared of are snakes, and snakes are so important. And so snakes, they eat rats, right? So they help pest control also.
Mm,
And we don't see snakes anymore in Metro Manila. Rarely. There are some spaces that you will still see them, but the automatic reaction, even if they're actually harmless, is to kill it, right? When you see it.
yeah.
Like whenever you see a video online of a
Yeah.
snake being caught in the middle of the city, it's always killed, and it really breaks my heart because the snakes in the city actually can't harm us. Like, they're so small. If they're venomous, their venom would be so weak. And they eat
Oh.
rats, so they eat pests, and they help reduce the spread of disease because rats carry disease, right? So that's just one example. Also, what else? Yeah, birds also. Birds help carry seeds to distribute
Mm.
more, distribute the seeds around for more trees to bloom. Um, our insects, like bees, people. I'm sure people are aware of bees or of how they pollinate, but
Mm.
bees are actually just a small. Bees aren't the only ones that pollinate. Many insects do also, but people only really focus on the bees. There are so many other species of insects that also help our plants cultivate, breed. That we're also losing. So there are all of these things that aren't so pretty or so popular that
Right.
really do so much for us or have done so much for us.
Ah, interesting. It's there's just so much like I feel like there's so much we could dive into here,
Yes.
but we do have to stick to our goal of talking about the loss of urban
Yeah.
biodiversity. Now your work spans like from policy conservation conversations rather all the way to community gardens, and it's a very big spectrum to cover. From your experience, what are the kinds of solutions or actions that can make a bigger difference or the biggest difference for urban biodiversity? Are there quick wins alongside the long-term changes that we need?
Yeah, definitely. One very quick win that we can do is create pollinator pockets. So if you're not familiar with that, it's just a patch of ground that you don't touch. Basically, you let whatever grows grow, and that will already attract
Mm,
pollinators, not just butterflies and bees, but other insects that will help bring biodiversity back into our cities. If you live in a condo, you can buy a citrus plant, something
oh,
that ideally is native to the Philippines.
yeah.
And citrus plants are attractive to many insects, especially butterflies, actually. So there are so many
Oh.
things that you can do within your own small space that can help bring biodiversity back. If you're going to plant trees, make sure it's native. Native meaning it naturally grows in the Philippines. But if you want to do long-term goals, of course, policy change, making parks something a bit more accessible, opening parks up. Like if it's a huge golf course, there's so much you can do with biodiversity there, right? So there's so many things that can be done. So many things already being done actually, but of
Mm,
course more can still happen, right?
right.
We can do more.
Yeah. Now, for the people listening, maybe like you mentioned, aside from the things that they can do, what about the bigger picture? Like you did say, the government could do like open up more parks, etc. But I would say that could be a little less fees. So, like,
Hmm.
it's hard to implement. It's harder
Yeah.
to implement, right? So are there any policies that you think could be like, yeah, we can implement this?
Uh, the thing is, uh, y- what you don't know, you can't act on.
Mm.
And the thing is, with urban biodiversity in Metro Manila, there's still so much we don't know. So before
Mm.
we make policies to support urban biodiversity, we have to study, put on paper, and actually assess what is present within
Right.
Metro Manila, what can be done, what is successful, what isn't. There's so many things we still don't know that can be funded to fund research in order to for us to learn more about urban biodiversity in Metro Manila. Like we do know species of birds because it's easy to study birds, but about biodiversity loss of insects, what's affecting that, where they usually are still seen, how we can support it, what actually are the species that are here. There's still so much we don't know.
Right.
So one thing that I guess government agencies can do is to fund those studies, fund scientists to do that, to do the work. And once we have that information, where all these species are, what species are here, how to best support it, then we can make a roadmap that can help us, that can be turned into policy, right?
Yeah.
So it's really just about learning still because there's still so much we don't know. And after that, after knowing what's here, we can then identify how to support it better.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're not doing that yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
Well, but you did mention that there are already some policies or projects or
Hmm.
efforts in place.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a bit about some of those?
I guess a lot of them would be indirect. If you notice a lot of parks, people have been thinking about parks more. People are asking for more parks,
Right.
right? So even in where I live in, we live in San Juan. So in San Juan, the park there's being taken care of, and I walk there almost every morning.
Mm.
I go there almost every morning just to get my steps in, right? And of course, I also always observe what life is there, and I do see more bird species there now than when I used to start walking before the pandemic. So from a few years ago. Others can be when we're doing a lot of creek cleanups right now.
Oh.
We're try to dredge up the pollution within the creeks to get it flowing more, so that more species can live there. If they're cleaner waterways, we'll have more dragonflies, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just dragonflies. So those things are currently being done. Of course, um, it should be done more, a lot
Uh-huh.
more than it is. But I hope we're getting there.
Yeah.
That I'm seeing those small things already being done.
Right. Now, on the flip side, I think a lot of us are doing things that we think are eco-friendly,
Yeah.
but actually cause harm.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what those are? Like, are there common practices in cities, maybe even well-meaning ones
Mhm.
that actually end up damaging our biodiversity without us realizing it?
I think one thing would be buying green or buying stuff that are good for the environment when you don't need it, right? For
Mhm.
example, if you already have tote bags at home, or if you already have something you can put your groceries in, but you're gonna buy, hey, I'll buy this tote bag so that I can be eco-friendly, blah blah blah, right? But that's actually doing more harm than good, because you already have these existing things you can use that won't cause pollution, right? Because that product, even if it is eco-friendly, still had to be extracted from somewhere. It's
Mm.
about consuming less, not about thinking of what you consume, right? Don't think of, I have to shift my consumption into something more eco-friendly. It's about thinking that I have to be consuming less. I don't have to order all the time on Shopee, or I don't have to be ordering all the time online. I don't have to be buying things all the
Yeah.
time, right? So there are those things. Even if it's labeled as eco-friendly, if you already have it, if you already have a drug at home, why are you gonna buy a new one, right? Because yeah, so there's so many things that we can do, that we are doing now, that
Yeah.
we can stop doing, right? And of course, also just to get more acquainted with proper what's around us, right? That's one thing that I really push for, is just education, getting to know what's around you, awareness of the things that matter in the environment around you also. And yeah, those things, yeah.
Yeah. Um I really do think it is constant practice, right? Of choosing what to listen to
Yes,
also
yes,
and what to let go of.
yes.
Now, uh you mentioned that we have to kind of let go of the idea of just consuming more
Mm-hmm.
but eco-friendly things.
Yes.
Now, my question is, don't you feel like how can we, cuz of course businesses are going to want to keep selling
Mm-hmm.
still, right? So where do you think the balance is there?
It's about buying the right, if you need it, buy the right things, of quality things. You know how a lot of the things we buy now don't really last. Like,
Yeah.
you'll get it, you'll throw it out after a month because it's broken right
Right.
away. So it's buying the right things also, so that it doesn't produce as much waste, and just make sure you're buying what you need.
Mhm.
Sure, I'm not saying we all have to be hermits and never buy anything that we want, right? Of course, there's leeway for us to enjoy things,
Mhm.
but culture right now is very consumeristic, right? We
Mhm.
all buy so many things all the time, and it can be lessened, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. All right. Well, you are listening to Heard on Thursdays. Monsters here with me, Ria Rams, joined today by environmental scientist and conservationist Job Ochoa. Stay tuned because we have more on urban biodiversity and why the wild things in our cities matter so much more than we think. Stay tuned only here on Manila's hottest monster, RX 93.1.
Monster presents Heard on Thursdays, the iconic radio talk show that made Philippine FM radio talk. Winner of multiple KBP Golden Dove Awards. HOT. Heard on Thursdays. Your host, Rhea Rams.
Manila's hottest monster, RX93.1. Welcome back to Heard on Thursdays. I'm your host, Rhea Rams, and today we are with environmental scientist and conservationist Job Ochoa to talk about the hidden life of cities, why every patch of green matters, and how we can make space for nature, even in the most concrete jungle where dreams are made of. Okay, let's talk about the bigger picture now, okay?
Yeah.
Beyond the obvious environmental benefits, how does urban biodiversity impact things like our health, our food security, even our ability to cope with climate change? You've touched into this earlier, but maybe we can deep dive into it a little bit more.
I would like to get into a bit more on the mental health of things also.
Right.
Like I mentioned a while ago, presence of nature does improve our sense of things, right? It helps us improves our well-being. The thing about thinking of climate changes, it's always so doom and gloom. It gets kind of depressing thinking about climate change, right?
Yep.
So being able to do things yourself, let's say you're making your own pollinator pocket at home, it's so good for your mental health to see it grow, right? So there are those things that can help you as you're helping the environment also.
Right.
And other things that urban biodiversity does for us. Well, of course, helps us dive into feeding the curiosity of people. Also, getting people to know more about science, about biodiversity. If there's more nature around us, people will care about it more. Also,
Right.
yeah. Although I have mentioned most of it already with pollution, with clean air, with temperature, with even flooding, right?
Yep.
So being able to cultivate good, healthy biodiversity in our urban systems can also help reduce flooding, right? Because the things that ruin our biodiversity in our waterways are pollution and or when we make the sides of a river concrete, when we bring the nature back in those areas, that actually helps the waterways flow better. And also just thinking about it also floods because we encroach or we build on places that naturally flood, right? So for example, if you live beside a creek, it naturally floods there when it rains. Even before we were there, it would really flood. So now that we've made everything beside it concrete, no soil will absorb it, no plants will help slow down the flow of water. Then of course the flooding, it already naturally floods there. Now
Right.
we've covered it with concrete. It's gonna
Worse.
flood even more. It's
Yeah.
gonna get worse. So bringing the life back, bringing nature back in those areas will help us also in reducing that flooding. Of course, that's not the only answer to flooding. There's so much else that has to be done, but that's one way,
Right.
right?
I want to go back to what you said. Like, they make the sides of rivers concrete.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I wouldn't say it's coming from a bad place. A lot of the things that we've done to nature is because we didn't know how it would affect nature.
I
So
see.
people thought that if we put these concrete slabs beside rivers, that it will help us control the water level. But now we know better. But the concrete slabs are already there, right? So it's just about lack of foresight sometimes. Sometimes our best practices before are no longer the best practices now. So there are those things, right? I want to remove that negativity also, that everything being done to nature is always so evil. Like sometimes we just didn't know better.
Yeah.
But now that we know better, what do we do about it?
Right.
Right.
Now, I think a lot of us feel disconnected to this
Yeah.
because it feels far away.
Yeah.
Like, for example, climate change, a lot of people think it's only simply because of the melting ice caps.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But that's only a part of it.
Yeah.
Like you said, even the things that we do here in the city really do affect the change in climate, the ongoing global warming,
Yeah.
right? The worsening of it. So I how do you make that connection for people? Like, for you want to make it feel closer, more urgent, and more personal. So how do you make that connection for people?
So again, I always bring up heat.
Mm.
It's getting hotter. It's the easiest thing to notice. Are storms getting worse? It's
Right.
also because of climate change. I also want people to, again, as I mentioned, what was the baseline when you were younger, and of the number of species around you, the number of animals around you, and what is your baseline now? Do you notice so many things disappearing also? That's also because of climate change. So it does affect us in so many different ways. But yeah, our health, especially with pollution, with the heat waves, with the flooding, which also brings sickness, right?
Right.
So I'm pretty sure people already see the effects of climate change on them. Yeah.
Now, when you work in conservation, it's easy to focus on what's being lost.
Yes.
But let's flip it for a moment. What gives you hope? Are there any success stories, especially here in the Philippines? Could be abroad also, like to give inspiration to us here in the Philippines that prove that it is possible to restore or protect biodiversity, even in the middle of a very highly urbanized city.
For me, one success story would be uh, I'll go abroad first
Okay.
to Singapore because they're close, right? So Singapore is very, very, very developed, right? Very urbanized, and they were able to, and they were losing a lot of species.
Mhm.
They, for a time when they were developing Singapore, they weren't so aware of what's around them, or I guess it wasn't top of mind with their development to think of the environment. But nowadays, they're incorporating more trees into their architecture. They're trying to get into clean air more. They're also processing their garbage in a way that doesn't produce as much landfill, right? Especially because they're a small landmass.
Mhm.
And in those efforts, they've actually managed to bring back some animals from the brink of extinction. So
Wow.
there's a hornbill in Singapore that was almost extinct, like almost gone forever. And because of these efforts, they were able to bring that species back. And that's just one species, right? They're actually bringing so many species back from the brink of
Right.
extinction. And it's not so far from us.
Yeah.
If they're also in Southeast Asia, same climate, very heavily urbanized. It's just that policy has helped bring those animals back also. But also people are a bit more aware there,
Right.
right? So that's what we can do here. Um, some smaller scale success stories here would be the adoption of pollinator pockets, as I mentioned a while ago.
Mhm.
So people there's some campuses in the Philippines or in Metro Manila that are establishing these small pollinator pockets to allow more natural more nature to thrive,
Right.
more insects to thrive. So far, we're also raising awareness about bird strikes. So bird strikes are when birds hit windows, which is actually a really, really huge reason why a lot of bird species are disappearing. So bird strikes, there's a study now, bird strike PH that's going on
Mhm.
that helps us track down what species are hitting or are getting affected by this and what we can do. So
Mhm.
one thing that's being done in a lot of places now are adding these small tiny dots on windows to allow birds to see na, oh, it's not the sky, it's actually glass.
Okay.
And those things have proven to be so effective in reducing bird strikes. So we're not there yet in fully implementing it, let's say in Ateneo, but they're working on bringing that fully into the campus. So there's so many things that small things being done, although bigger things can be done.
Yeah.
And for me, even at home, um, a small win I've seen is we're bringing so many butterflies back because we've planted ilang ilang, we've planted a lot of other native trees and plants in our garden, and it's brought a lot of insects I didn't see before come back, right? Because when we just moved in recently,
Mhm.
there was no garden there and there were no insects, no life actually.
Yeah.
Now I see some frogs, I see insects. So it's not all doom and gloom. Like small
Right.
things can actually help us see immediate change and then long-term change after a while,
Yeah.
right? It's not hopeless. There's so many things we can do.
Yeah, I mean during the panini, right? A
Yeah.
lot of people started their plantita
Yeah.
journeys. So, would you say that that's also a small win?
Yeah, I think it's a small win in the sense that people realize the importance of having greenery around them.
Mhm.
One reason why that happened, why people were so hungry for plants, is because
Mm.
us as humans are naturally supposed to be around nature. We seek
Right.
it out, and because so many people were stuck at home, not being around plants, they want to bring nature back into their houses, right?
Right.
So that whole trend helped people recognize their need to be around nature, even in small ways.
Yeah.
So I hope it's something we can grow even further to bring those plants, the plantita mindset outside also,
Mm-mm.
right? It's good that we have them indoors, but let's try to also use the right species and plant them outdoors. Also,
Yeah.
find ways to bring nature back into our other spaces, not just at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes honestly just hearing it's possible
Yes, it's
is
very
enough.
possible.
I mean, when you think about it, a lot of Filipinos when they go visit other countries, they love going to the parks. They
Yes.
love visiting the nature
Mm-hmm.
and seeing the nature of these places. And I think here in the Philippines, maybe it's a lack of awareness that we have these spaces, but also maybe it is, like you mentioned, just the lack of the space itself.
Yes.
Right now, can you paint us a picture of a project or a place that you've seen that really got it right here in the Philippines, where city and nature actually thrive together?
All right. So I used to work in the Lamesa Nature Reserve.
Mm.
So that nature reserve, also a watershed. So a watershed is a forest that surrounds a body of water. So a
Ah,
watershed helps clean water, helps clean the water getting into the body of water. So the Lamesa
okay,
watershed
got it.
has a dam, the Lamesa Dam, in the middle of it
Mhm.
that supplies water to us in Metro Manila.
Right.
So that watershed, that forest that surrounds the dam, was actually 75% denuded, like almost dead. Right, the ecosystem was almost dead.
Uh-huh.
But Gina Lopez, rest in peace, she helped push for us to revive that watershed, and now it's a fully functioning ecosystem. You can go to the La Mesa Eco Park just to see for yourself, and the entrance fee is like 20 pesos. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's you can see for yourself how successful that project was. It did take a while for it to take off. It took like 25 years for it to become a fully functioning
Mhm.
watershed again, but it is possible and it's
Right.
been done. And the work is so important, and the people there are great. Like I love La Mesa.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah,
interesting to me because I'm sure almost all Filipinos, if not everyone,
yeah,
almost all have had a field trip there.
yeah,
Right? And if you're a little bit older, like maybe in your 20s, you probably, and you went there when you were like in grade school, you probably saw it at the time when it was like, what's going on here? Like it wasn't the most.
it was still being developed. It
Yeah.
was heading to where it is now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it wasn't there yet,
yeah,
right? Like it's not where it is now. So like
yeah,
when you go there, it was like I'm making a face to the listeners. So it's like,
yeah.
what is this? Because this is like one of the biggest, right,
It's
green
the
spaces
yeah,
here
it's the
in.
biggest forest. It's the last functioning forest in Metro Manila. It's in Quezon City, right?
Mm,
So yeah, it's very important. And I think just thinking about how much greenery is within Quezon City whenever I'm there, I'm like, it really gives me so much hope.
yeah.
Because wow, there's so much we can still do, and so much actually has been done, right?
Yeah. So I feel like it would be such a great thing to do, especially for those who saw La Mesa when it was
Newer.
newer.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it was newer, to maybe like drop by
Yeah.
and gain
Support La Mesa.
inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah, like and if you see, like I feel like if people see it for themselves, it'll inspire them to be to bring that outside of La Mesa. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if they see like, oh, this is possible, they were able to do it here. Can't we do that to the rest of Manila?
Yeah.
Right? Now, a lot of people really do care when they see these things, right? What would you say is a big misconception that people have about cities and nature? Is it just the idea that cities are already too far gone for wildlife, or that green spaces are just nice to have or not and not essential? Like what do you think is the biggest misconception?
Yeah, if the pandemic taught us anything about the environment, it's that nature bounces back quick. So a common misconception is that it's kind of hopeless now. Cities, we're never gonna have wildlife here. We're never gonna see greenery again. But no, so much can still be done.
Mhm.
It's just about getting people aware, getting people to care, and getting people to act.
Yeah.
Right? There's so much hope. There's so much we can still do. Right now, actually, I want to go back to La Mesa.
Mhm.
La Mesa had I believe, just 20 something species of birds when the project started.
Mhm.
And now there's, I think, over 100 bird species. So that's a
Wow.
huge impact already, right?
Right.
A lot of animals started to come back into the ecosystem. And that's within Quezon City, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's so much hope. There's so much that can still be done.
Mhm.
Admittedly, for me also, I can feel so doom and gloom, or I can feel so hopeless about the environment sometimes. But I have to remind myself, especially having worked on it and having seen for myself the the good that can happen. It's
Mhm.
possible.
Yeah, so if you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about the Philippine city is the way that Philippine cities are designed or managed to better protect biodiversity, whether it's infrastructure, policy, or mindset, what would you change?
All three: infrastructure, policy, and mindset.
Mm,
Because you can't change one. You can't change one and for it to be a success if the other two don't change, right?
mm, mm.
So all of those working hand in hand in supporting biodiversity or nature within our cities. If it's something more concrete, it's just to have more green spaces. That's
Right.
and clean waterways. Those two: green spaces and clean waterways. Clean in the sense that not potable, not drinkable, but clean in the sense that it can support wildlife
Mhm.
well.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Now, in the context of our current state,
Yeah.
how feasible do you think these things are?
We are far away from where I want us to be, but again, things can happen very quickly.
Mm.
One thing that people don't also realize is just how much Pasig River has improved. So
Mm.
there used to be a Pasig River Rehabilitation Commission. It's a whole organization that was funded by the used to be funded by the government that helped lead up the Pasig River and the waterways that lead up to it, and it was very successful. Actually, if you think about when we were kids, also Pasig River was much
Mm.
stinkier.
Yep,
It
yep, yep.
barely flowed, right?
Yeah.
And now Pasig, I wouldn't say it's clean, but it's so much better than it used to be, right?
Mm.
And it's something that, because it's not so marketed, or people don't really know about it, people don't really recognize it, but it's actually such a huge improvement already, right? So yeah.
Yeah, that would be so cool. I do think that these things are so not talked about.
Yes, yeah.
And if only it was given a little bit more
More
spotlight.
attention.
Yeah, like what you said, I feel like everything starts from awareness, and just
Yeah.
a lot of people are not aware. They don't even know what they don't know.
Yeah.
So how are they gonna learn? How are they gonna know what to do? How are they gonna appreciate the things that have already been done if they don't even know that they don't know? Because like me, I'm not a science person or an environmental, like I don't know that much about the environment like you do. So it's hard for me to notice these things, right? And I'm sure it's the same way for a lot of people.
Mhm.
So I think awareness is just so important. And a lot of people do care when they see like things online.
Yeah.
For example, they see a whale stranded on a beach, a turtle caught in a net,
Yeah.
or a beach or a forest burning,
Yeah.
right? But urban biodiversity loss, it can feel invisible
Yeah.
until it's just too late. So, what happens if we do nothing? What if the trend of losing urban biodiversity continues? What kind of cities will we be left with?
uh I hope it's something I would never see.
Uh-huh.
One thing, of course, as I mentioned with the dragonflies, more illness is possible
Uh-huh.
with the loss of biodiversity. With more illness, we can also get sicker with respiratory illness, right? Because we won't be able to breathe cleaner air.
Right.
A lot of things would get a lot hotter, right? So heat strokes, those things, and also just the enjoyment of nature, of seeing nature, just the joy of being able to see different kinds of birds, of
Mm-mm.
seeing these trees will all be gone, right? So there is a lot still left to lose. We may have lost a lot, but we can still bring a lot back,
Yeah.
right?
You know what I'm imagining? Like just to give people a bit of a clearer picture. Did you watch Guardians of the Galaxy? Um or was it Avengers? But it was where the Guardians of the Galaxy they were staying.
I don't know.
Monsters. You guys know what I'm talking about? Like it's like full of just buildings and steel.
Yeah. Okay, I
Yeah.
think I kind of it's a planet that's full of
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
buildings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And there's parang that's where the gold guy
Yeah.
crashed.
And it did not look like a place you would want to live in,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
exactly. Because I was like, there's no green. It's so it looks lifeless
It did
almost.
look clean, but it was lifeless, right?
Yes. Yeah, so we don't want that.
We don't want that.
Now, sometimes people think that fixing this problem is too complex
Yeah.
or expensive because you know these things. It feels like the little things that you do don't really make a difference
Mm-hmm.
because you don't see it. um the difference that we want to see is more like, oh, if the government does this, if somebody in power does this, then we'll see a bigger difference. But if you had to point one or two concrete doable actions that could be implemented at city government level
Mm-hmm.
right now, what would they be? Like something realistic, something that could actually move the needle.
One thing is, as I mentioned, you start with learning of seeing what's there. So I
Mhm.
would start with a biodiversity assessment within our cities now. What is there to save, right? Because we don't know so much of what's present with plants, animals, with these species, what's invasive or what's not supposed to be there,
Right.
what's
Mm.
native or what's actually thriving that we didn't know about that can happen, right?
Mm-mm.
So studying what's here, I would start with that.
Okay.
And next would be create more green spaces, something to legislate, having to make it mandatory for a certain, let's say, an
Oh.
amount of area that is urbanized should have this amount of area that is green, right? And if we have one more thing would be to support sewage systems, so people don't really realize that our sewage systems in Metro Manila aren't that great yet. A lot of our sewage goes straight into waterways. It doesn't even get processed and it's very polluted. So just to have those systems be put up, because I think we can, that would do so much already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, on the other side of that, you did mention some of the things that we can do from a day-to-day
Mm-hmm.
basis.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah, aside from those that you've mentioned, like planting a citrus plant, what was that? The
Pollinator pocket.
pollinator
Yeah.
pocket, like just letting things grow without, removing them. What are some small practical things that we can do to genuinely help urban biodiversity?
Hmm. One thing, not necessarily super action based yet, is to join and support our organizations that are doing bigger things that support policy in making urban biodiversity healthier. There are clubs like the Wild Bird Club,
Mm.
the Wild Bird Club of the Philippines, that assesses birds or goes on bird watching to help us know what's present. You can also donate to all of these organizations as well. There are a lot.
Yeah.
There are a lot now. Yeah. Some other practical things would be to just spread the word of how important things are and
Mm-mm.
to be more mindful of how much we used to see and how much we don't see anymore. Siguro one thing also is not to plant invasive or not to plant tree species that shouldn't be within our ecosystems. One popular plant or one popular tree is mahogany. So mahogany shouldn't be in the
Mahogany.
Philippines. Yeah, yeah, it's
Oh.
a very very invasive species.
What happens? What happens if you plant these invasive
Okay,
species?
so mahogany, it's allelopathic. That means that, okay, allelopathy means that it just kills plants around it. The
Oh
leaves are toxic,
no.
so if the leaf
Oh
falls
no.
down, it's toxic to the plants around the tree. That's one thing. And they also are very, very successful breeders. So they can choke out entire forests of native tree species and make it all mahogany,
Oh
right? So
no.
mahogany isn't naturally found in the Philippines. It's
Yeah.
introduced. So it's a species brought into the country, and it's a popular species, but people don't recognize that it's actually quite harmful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are a lot of species that people are still planting, like Gimelina, or fire tulip. No, African
Okay.
tulip. There. So a lot of species that we don't realize are actually harmful we should avoid. So plant Nara, plant Banaba, plant Molave, plant
Mhm.
not native species. Yeah.
Now, what about animals? Like, I remember seeing squirrels in
Oh my
some,
gosh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
I've seen your posts. You say that
Yeah.
they're not native.
Yeah, those squirrels are not native to the Philippines and they are killing our urban biodiversity. So
Oh.
these squirrels were brought in, and they started in some exclusive villages, and they eventually bred and bred and bred. So they're squirrels are just cute rats. So
Yeah.
they breed really, really fast. And like I
Oh.
mentioned, there are no more snakes or very little snakes left in Metro Manila. So nothing is eating them, right? And these squirrels actually eat the eggs of other birds. They eat the fruits and seeds of our plants. They are beating out, or they are competing against nature or the biodiversity that we are supposed to have in
Mm,
Metro Manila. So even if you see those squirrels, even if they kind of look cute,
cute.
they're horrible. I hate seeing squirrels in Metro Manila. Like, it really breaks my heart.
But what can be done?
Honestly, as a citizen,
Yeah.
there's not much that we should be doing. It's actually it should be more on government agencies already, because it's quite
Mm,
widespread. It's a bit difficult to address as a citizen, right? So what we can do is to just learn about it so that we
yeah.
can push policy forward as a people, right?
You can't like catch them then domesticate them para at least they're not.
I'm not so sure of the policy. Yeah.
Okay,
Because I
okay.
know even if something is invasive, you're not supposed to be catching it or anything. Also, there is a
Mm,
certain right way to do it. Like if there's a fully grown mahogany tree, you can't just cut it down even if it's invasive.
mm.
You have to get the proper permits, those things.
Unless
So
it's in your.
not really. Also, so
Oh!
for trees, it has to reach a certain diameter. I'm not so sure of the number anymore, but if it reaches a large enough diameter, you're not allowed to cut it down. You have to get a permit to cut it down, even if it's invasive. Yeah,
And even if it's in your,
yeah.
like your.
That's what I think.
la-
I think if I'm updated,
Mm,
that's what I know.
okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I know. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Now, do you think that people need to fall in love with nature in order to just protect it? And if so, how can someone who's living in a busy, built up neighborhood start that love story?
Yes, I do think I want everyone to love nature, and I think
Mm,
we are capable of it. It's just that we aren't growing up surrounded by nature anymore, so people don't aren't so used to it, na,
right.
right? But I do believe we are naturally drawn towards nature, and we naturally love nature. It's just that it's so hard to do so now, right? So it's be more intentional about it.
Mm-mm.
Seek out these places that are there are some green spaces still, so seek them out, hang out, notice what you don't
Yeah.
usually notice. Look at the birds closely and see, it's not just Maya. There's so many birds, right? In my street alone, I've already seen 20 bird species, although not in one time,
Mm-mm.
throughout the span of a few years. But right in one street in San Juan City, you've seen all of these
Right.
species, and that's not even a forested part, right?
Mm-hmm.
So take time to notice, and just familiarize yourself. Talk to someone
Who knows?
who knows also,
Yeah.
because otherwise I wouldn't be at this level of awareness also if never went on that nature walk. That was
Right.
really like one of my eye-opening experiences already, right? Yeah,
I think Job should host a nature walk.
I would love to, honestly.
Oh, there. If you guys are interested, please comment below so that we can get your names and plan this nature walk. But I mean, it's true. People here in Manila love going to the beaches. They love
Yeah.
going to places that bring them closer to nature. So I think it's high time for us to bring nature closer to us. Oh,
Yes.
diba? Now when you imagine the future of the Philippine cities, say 20 to 30 years from now, what do you hope that they look like and feel like if we truly embraced biodiversity as part of city life?
I would hope to see a lot more sidewalks and a lot more trees by those sidewalks for it to be more walkable, so there are less cars around which do
Mm.
produce so much
Mm-hmm.
pollution. Walking also helps you be more aware
Mm.
of the environment. Just a short anecdote. Where when I was a teacher, I used to walk to and from work, It's like a 2.5 kilometer walk, and I used to never walk that path, so I didn't know it was there.
Mm.
And there's this creek I used to pass by every day, but on a car. And now that I've walked across it, I've seen so many different bird species. I've seen a Nankin night heron. I've seen a cattle egret. I've seen gray wagtail. All of these species of birds, right, that you don't normally see. But because I walked, and it's also in a really urbanized place within a creek, I saw
Right.
all of those species. So being able to walk, having a walkable city makes people be more aware of the biodiversity around them also.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's so like when you were saying the bird species, it felt like you were just putting random words together. But our one of our listeners says by Joyful Art, she says there's an IG page called Forest Bathing Manila
Yeah.
that hosts activities related to appreciating nature. And I feel like this is also a good step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But also the walking is interesting. I feel like, with how quickly life moves here in the city, when we walk we're kind of just like, come on, let's
go,
get,
let's go,
yeah.
yeah.
But if you kind of just slow down a little bit and notice,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that will really bring you so much more awareness. Even if you can't name these bird species, you can say like, oh my god, iba
Yeah.
to, right? But yeah, I think that's super interesting. And monsters, we do have a lot more to talk about in just a little bit, because you are listening to Heard on Thursdays with me, Ria Rams, and we are here today with environmental scientist and conservationist Job Ochoa. Now stay tuned, we've got more on urban biodiversity and why the wild things in our cities matter more than we think. You're tuned in to Manila's hottest Monster RX 93.1.
The Monster presents Heard on Thursdays, the iconic radio talk show that made Philippine FM radio talk. Winner of multiple KBP Golden Dove Awards. HOT. Heard on Thursdays. Your host, Ria Rams.
3.1. Welcome back to Heard on Thursdays. I'm your host, Ria Rams, and today we are with environmental scientist and conservationist Job Ochoa, exploring the hidden life of cities and, of course, why protecting it matters. Now, Job, as we wrap up, if you could talk to someone who's never really thought about biodiversity in their city, what is one thing that you'd want them to remember after listening to this conversation?
That every life matters, and that it takes one look out your window to realize how much there is to see.
Right.
And just to be observant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mean like not just human life.
Yeah. Like every kind
All-
of life
Yeah. All
matters.
lives matter.
Yeah. Maybe not in that context.
No,
but-
we can change the meaning of that.
All kinds of life matter.
Now, for those who are feeling inspired but maybe a little bit overwhelmed, what's
Mhm.
one small concrete step that they can take this week to make their surroundings more biodiverse?
You can buy a plant that is native and put it somewhere an insect can find it.
Ooh, and how can people know if it's native to the Philippines? Is it just like a quick Google search?
It's a quick Google search. There are some creators that are also really, really great with education on the environment. Celine Morillo, I believe I got that right. She does a lot of native biodiversity, a lot of native tree species also. So many a few creators right now are starting it out already.
Cool.
So just be on the lookout. But Cecil or Celine, sorry, but Cecil C Morillo, look
Yeah,
for her.
okay.
I love her. I'm sorry for not remembering, but yeah, she's a great creator where who you can learn from.
Okay, monsters, if you guys are tuned in right now and you actually get to buy a plant this week, post it and then tag us at RX931 and tag Job para matuwa siya.
Yeah, and if you're gonna buy things, buy plants na lang.
Yeah. All right. Now, what is one myth about nature in cities that you'd love to bust?
I think I've mentioned it a while ago how many times already, but it's really about saying Maya lang meron dyan. I admit that used to be me, but my eyes have been opened to the amount of life that's present in Metro Manila or within urban spaces. There's so many species for us to appreciate. Try to battle that. Remove that misconception that there's not a lot to be seen here. We're so lucky to be in a country like the Philippines that's so rich in biodiversity. We're so lucky to have all of these species.
Yeah.
Sige, I'll just give one example. So there's a parrot called Colasisi, or the Philippine hanging parrot, that's endemic. That means you can't see it anywhere else in the world. And I see it out my window, right? Imagine how special that is to just see a bird that no one else in the world is
Yeah.
lucky enough to see. And
What's it called?
Philippine hanging parrot.
The other one.
It's called the Colasisi. Yeah.
Colasisi.
So yeah, there's so many, and that's just one species. Like I used to see woodpeckers.
Yeah, woodpecker. I was
right?
gonna
Yeah.
talk about that.
That's
yeah.
all. The Philippine pygmy woodpecker is also endemic. You're not gonna see that anywhere
The
else.
what?
Philippine pygmy woodpecker. Yeah,
That's so
pygmy because it's small.
Oh, pygmy.
And yeah, so there's so many things we can see, and
Yeah.
observe, and appreciate. Yeah.
I really wish like it was more accessible to learn about these things
Mhm.
because, like you said, it starts with awareness. And the moment you're more aware, the more you're gonna be able to notice, right?
And care. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, before we let you go, quick fun one. If you could be any urban animal or plant for a day, what would you be and why?
I would be Nara.
Wow.
So quick.
That was so fast.
Sorry, I just love Nara. They're so supportive. They're an ecosystem in themselves
Oh,
because
wow.
they're so huge. They can host epiphytes or plants. Like plants
Oh.
grow on Nara also. They host a lot of bird species for their habitats. They smell so good when it's blooming season, right? And they're just a really beautiful tree.
You're
Like
right.
I really love Nara trees, especially if it's Nara season. You see all those yellow blooms. It's the evening air
Oh.
smells so good. Like you're just so thankful to be surrounded by Nara. I don't know if that's just me, but I love Nara. Yeah.
Nara Smith. Do you know her?
Yes, I do. But I like
Nara
the tree
trees.
better.
Yeah. All right. And lastly, before we let you go, where can people follow you and support your projects or learn more about protecting urban biodiversity? I think some people are already saying, please organize the nature walk. I'm in.
I would love to organize a nature walk one of these days, maybe after the rainy season, or maybe in our pockets of sunshine. I haven't. It is something I want to do. Maybe something I can start developing, especially nature walk in Lamesa. I would love to host one. You can follow me on Instagram, Job Ochoa. So it's three O's, JOOOBOCHOA.
Yeah.
And on TikTok, Job_Ochoa. So I used to post a lot of environmental education content back in 2021. I think I have a bit more time to start it off now again. So watch out for that. I
No.
have some content in mind already.
Oh,
Yeah.
exciting. Someone even said, please start a podcast. Please have a podcast.
Maybe one day.
Yeah, we'll start with the content first.
Yes, yes.
But how about any projects that you know about that you think people should be supporting?
So support Lamesa Nature Reserve.
Mhm.
Support the Lamesa Eco Park. One visit will help
Oh, wow, yeah.
will help the whole thing run. You can also support their tree planting. They're still planting trees there. You can also support the Wild Bird Club. They're conservationists helping us realize the Wild Bird Club of the Philippines. Rather, they help us recognize the species we have. They host a lot of bird watching expeditions,
Mm-mm.
both within and outside of Metro Manila that you can join. You don't have to be a scientist. You can just be someone who appreciates
Right.
nature,
Yeah.
right? So much we can do.
Yeah.
Just look around. Just notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on that note, again, if you guys want to learn more about all of these, you can follow Job at Job J3Os B Ochoa OCHOA, or on Instagram or rather on TikTok, Job_Ochoa.
Yep.
And you can just like shoot him a message if you want to be part of that nature walk that he will be hosting, or if you want to learn more about the projects that he mentioned earlier. Now, Job, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been such an eye-opening and also grounding conversation, and also a reminder, like a great reminder that nature doesn't have to be, you don't have to drive like 4, 5, 8 hours to experience nature.
And you don't have to be a scientist to know.
Exactly. It's right here. It's living alongside us. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, once again, this has been Heard on Thursdays with your host, Rhea Rams. Today, we explore the hidden life of cities, urban biodiversity, with environmental scientist and conservationist Job Ochoa. Catch us again next week. Same time, same place, only here on Manila's hottest Monster RX93.1.
Monster exclusive interview. Monster exclusive interview. Only from Manila's hottest. Monster RX 93.1.